cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers.
Never done an Elton John impression.
Thank you for watching Betting with the Bag.
I love the glasses.
How does he sing? I don't know.
Right here on Pub Sports Radio.
I'm still standing better than I ever did. I can't do Elton John. I don't know how he sings.
God damn! Needed that night last night. I needed it very badly. Good thing about this show, probably the best thing about this show, is it's not about me, it's about us. And we are succeeding.
I thought I was special, honestly. I thought there was only like 5. I thought we were only bringing like the select few like elite cappers. Needless to know, we have 10 cappers.
All right, big night tonight on NFL Pub Hub. Damn, I need confidence. There's lots of time left. There's lots of capping to do. All I want to do is cap with you guys. If capping can bring me the kind of joy that it brought me last night, god damn, it felt so good! All right, there we go. Now it is the time that I have been very excited about. I have Bobano, and we are 5 days before the North American start to the NHL season. And I'm excited about the opportunity to do a quick look at each and every team from a futures perspective, from a top 6 forward perspective, from an injury perspective. This is fun. I apologize to Jose. I wasn't sure how I was going to hammer this. And so I should have sent him the list of how we are doing the teams.
I had no idea either what we're doing, but I'm ready to talk hockey. I know that. But
it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference. We'll start with the Met, and I'll just lead us into it, and then we'll hear your take on it. So I'll set the table, and it will be pretty simple. And okay, so let's get to work. The National Hockey League, the first NHL regular season game is tomorrow in Prague, and the season starts on the 11th. And I think there's a ton of value in the futures market, and that's not something I usually say. I think that there's a ton of teams that shouldn't be close to the low odds that they are, and that's how I'm going to work on it tonight. By the way, I just got a text message from Alex Pavone, who's all about studying the market. All he cares about is the market, and he just sent me over tonight. That's what he just sent me. All right, let's get to work. We start with the Carolina Hurricanes. 54-20-8 last year for 116 points. Last year was the first year of about, I think, at least 3 straight that I didn't have futures on them. Our Mr. Gokster did have futures on them. I didn't want futures on them last year. Now, should we move on them? And when should we move on them? For the division, they're plus 175. For the cup, they're plus 1,100. They lose Trocheck and Niederreiter. Those are big pieces. They also lose Max Domi, who played well in the playoffs, and Ian Cole, who's a vet. And they bring in Paul Stastny and Brent Burns and Calvin DeHaan. Those are nice pickups. But I like Trocheck a lot. And I like Trocheck better than Paul Stastny. And look, we've seen Paul Stastny play smart hockey, accountable hockey, score huge overtime goals. But he's slowing down. And I always thought Niederreiter didn't use his body enough because he's a big boy. Let's take a look at their line combos right now and their injury situation to start the year. Brett Pesce's day-to-day, it's fine. Max Pacioretty is expected to be out at least until February with the Achilles injury. And Jake Gardner is donezo. So those guys are out. Svechnikov, Aho, and Jarvis on that first line. Kotkaniemi and Teravainen on that second line. Kashe, Stahl, and Jasper Fast on the third line. They're a deep forward group. Billy Friedrich says that Brent Burns should help a lot. I found it interesting that Mike Greer's first move was to get Burns out of there. Mike Greer is a tough spot in San Jose, and we'll get there. But let's hear what Bobano has to say about the favorites in the Metropolitan Division, the Carolina Hurricanes.
They're still probably going to have a pretty good season, but I don't know if they're my favorites in the Metro Division. I think a certain blue shirts, the New York Rangers, are winning that division this year, not this team. Carolina does have some concerns. I mean, you mentioned it. I don't know. Like, they're usually a team that they don't mind parting ways with certain players, but you lose Trocheck. Stastny's a good leadership two-way player, but is he going to replace Trocheck's offense? I'm not sure. Stastny's not that kind of player anymore in terms of the offensive side. Andre Caution never stays healthy, or rarely stays healthy. That's the concern with trusting him. Max Pacioretty, now look, they got him for nothing from Vegas. Why not trade for him? But he's not going to be available to play for a long period of time. Pacioretty at this point, we're not going to see him until at least, I would think, after the All-Star break, and that might be generous. So, you've got some concerns. I think early in the season, they could be vulnerable a little bit, Carolina. Frederick Anderson, Antti Ranta, the two Cripple Creeks, as I like to call them, in goal. Brent Burns, they get him from San Jose. But again, this is a guy, he got still some great hockey, his best hockey left in him. That remains to be seen. I think early in the season, they're a bet against. I think they could be one of those teams that they get through the regular season. They muddle through it. They still find a way to get a playoff spot. I think obviously they will. But you won't see their best hockey, I think, until playoff time, I think. When they flip the switch, they get Pacioretty back, among others, and that's when you're probably going to see Carolina play better here. So to me, this is nothing with Carolina, not their point totals, not the cup futures. I think if you're going to bet Carolina to win the conference, win the cup, do it late in the season, do it when they get Pacioretty back, because I think the first half of the season, it's going to be a grind for them.
I love it. I love now, personally, I don't know if Patchy comes back from this. He's a fucking China doll. Yep. And this is a big injury to come back from. But I love the idea, if this team is 11-1 to win the cup, what are they going to be January 1st? Or January.
They might be a better price if they're kind of up and down and inconsistent early in the season. You might get better. So you pump the brakes. You don't bet Carolina to win the cup now. You wait and see if you get a better price.
I love that. I get money. Yes, Colorado is a favorite to repeat, but with Landeskog out, it's ass crazy to move on them at plus 425 or whatever it is before the season starts. So we'll go through each and every team. This is a lot of fun. I love this opportunity to do this with you, Bobano. And you can.
I got to be gone by 1:15 or so, though. So we got to really go.
An hour and 7 minutes, not a problem. Yep. We can work with that. All right, let's move on to the blue shirts, the Broadway blue shirts to win the division right now, plus 325. And after our breakdown of Carolina, that seems like a pretty nice number. Put some asterisks there. 18-1 to win the cup right now. You lose Georgiev. Sorry, let me move this over here. It's like that. You lose Georgiev, Kopp, Vetrano, and Nemeth. You get back Barkowski, Vincent Trocheck. I think he's going to be a big piece. I've watched Trocheck win faceoffs, be great shorthanded. He's just someone who I think is a very quality player, and he's a perfect fit for this team. Kreider, Zibanejad on the top line. You put Trocheck in between Kravtsov and Panarin, Lafreniere, Chittle, and Kakko. We saw what these kids were able to do as the season went on. I mean, so basically what we're talking about is, would anybody be surprised if this is the best third line in hockey? Hedl, I should say, not Chittle, Hedl. Would anybody be surprised if it's the best third line in hockey? I mean, the answer is absolutely not. That's how good they started looking. This is a healthy group right now. No injuries to really worry about. And this might be a nice number on them for the division. Take it away for us, Bobano. Rangers in the Met.
Yeah, I like the Rangers over their point total. I was shocked that it was 99.5. I really was. I mean, you're projecting, what, a 12-point drop or more, 11-point drop or more from this team from last year. Now, I don't know if they're going to match last year's point total, but they don't have to get over 99.5. I think still a very good team. I look at one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and a team that's a contender for the Stanley Cup, a team that I think is going to win the Metro Division this year. Kreider's Zibanejad. Don't look now, but Lafreniere and Kakko are having great preseasons right now for the New York Rangers. And if they get those guys going consistently, wow, it's going to make them lethal up front. You had the breakout season last year, especially in the playoff for Philip Hedl as well. This team's going to be able to score, and keep your eye on the youngster, Vitaly Kravtsov, as well, who's going to probably make this lineup this year for Gerard Gallant. very good player, and he's had some seasoning playing pro in Russia, KHL. So that's going to help him out. The defense is young and only going to get better, though. Adam Fox, Ryan Lindgren, Keandre Miller, Braden Schneider, Jacob Trouba named the captain, Shesterkin, an elite goalie. Yeah, this is a 100-point team. Unless they suffer a ton of injuries, that's the future I like the most, is the overpoint total. And yes, I think Rangers' futures are worth it for me. The Eastern Conference, the division, and the Stanley Cup, I have that in pocket as well.
I have not made any future bets, but I know we got to be quick here, but I would like to spend a little bit more time on the really good teams, the teams we're thinking of moving on.
Correct. Yeah.
So what do you think about Sky Dragon? Because it's a very important point. It says the Rangers should be better this year, but their advanced metrics were so bad last year. There was a time I almost moved on them to win the division in the regular season, and everybody told me not to because of how bad their numbers were 5-on-5. What do you think about what Sky Dragon's saying?
That's something worth monitoring because, look, I think that stuff, I know there's people that swear by it, the analytics and the chances allowed, the high danger chances, Corsi numbers, expected goals. There's people that swear by that when they bet NHL. I'm not that way. I look at it, I consider it, but it's not the focal point of my handicap. And because I've seen this before, teams that are they outperform those metrics, and that's what the Rangers, and some teams just do that consistently, where the metrics say there's been last year all season long, there were metrics that said Montreal really good with their expected goals. Didn't matter squat. They were one of the worst teams in the NHL. So you want to be careful about just saddling your wagon, if you will, just to those advanced numbers. You've got to consider them and look at them, but you take them with a grain of salt. You don't swear by them at the end of the day. So if the Rangers even improve some of those advanced numbers just a little bit, they're really going to be a good hockey team. And keep in mind, they could give up more danger chances than the average team. They've got an elite goalie to bail them out, which he did often last year.
Billy Friedrich just bet Fox to win the Norris at 10-1. That's an interesting look. And Nasty Nate, there will never be an NHL team in Rhode Island, and it breaks our heart. It shatters us. But you got the Bruins, man. Can't you bet the Bruins first period, second period, and third period? Come on, buddy.
I was going to say, he's a Boston fan. He can cheer for the Bruins.
Yeah, man. We're going to be worse this year. Maybe not worse than they were last year, but they aren't. We'll get to them in a second. All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, plus 350 to win the division, 22-1 to win the cup. They lose Evan Rodriguez, who ended. Did you hear the story about that contract offer? So he had to fire his agent. He was offered a 4-year, $10 million?
Yep.
That he turned down to get fucking nothing. Disheartening. Not as bad as Schroeder. We can all point and laugh at him.
Well, their loss is Colorado's gain. That was a nice little pickup for the Avs.
It was a great pickup, no doubt about it. They lose John Marino and Louis Domingue. They bring in Cagula, who does not. They bring in Jeff Petrie. And that's what they did. And maybe Jan Ruda, you can talk about it a little bit. But they bring in Jeff Petrie, who will help. The contract that Letang signed made me laugh my ass off. It's just going to be a huge, huge fucking chain around their neck that's going to hurt them so badly. But it won't hurt them yet. You got Crosby with Gensel and Raquel on the first line, Zucker with Malkin and Rust on the second line. I just love Rust. I love him so much. Kapanen, Carter, Heinen. You have some depth at forward. And Petrie, you got to think he could have a bounce back year. 2 years ago, for the first 50 games, I thought he was a Norris Trophy finalist. So take it away for us, Bobano. And they don't have injury issues. Bluger day to day, nothing to worry about. Take it away for us, Bobano. The Pittsburgh Penguins.
I could only take this team under. I could only look at no to make the playoffs. They really could miss the playoffs, and they are in a fascinating division where, to me, there's two really good teams and everybody else is flawed. And I've said that basically all off season. I think Carolina's good. I think the Rangers are really good, and I think everyone else has issues. Everyone else has got problems or concerns somewhere. For Pittsburgh, it's age. For Pittsburgh, it's health. How many years have we seen Crosby, Malkin, and Letang stay healthy for a full season? I can't even remember the last time we saw that. Even Crosby was bit by the injury bug last year. Jake Gensel, thank goodness for him. I mean, he kept them afloat last year. If you really want to get wild, Jake Gensel, could have a 40-goal year. I think is capable of that for the Penguins this year. a dark horse to win the Rocket Richard. I mean, it seems like you're throwing money in the incinerator, going with anyone but Austin Matthews, to be the league's leading goal scorer. And there's probably some truth to that. But, if you're looking for long shot value, there's a couple I have in mind for the Rocket. And Jake Gensel probably could be that for Pittsburgh because he's shown that offensive ability. He's shown the ability to even contribute without Crosby being on the ice with him as his line mate. So keep an eye on that. But again, the Letang contract's baffling. Even the Malkin one, because this guy's had injury issues lately as well. And you're saddled with him now for a bunch more years. And there was talk they might move Malkin out, but that didn't happen. I don't know. It's just a team that when everybody's healthy, it's a really good hockey team still capable of being a team good enough to be a playoff team. But can we rely on that health? Can we rely on Tristan Jarry in net? I think losing Matheson and getting Petrie, I think that's a detriment to Pittsburgh's blue line. I don't see Pittsburgh's blue line as better with Petrie and better without Matheson. I like Mike Matheson a lot. I don't know if that's necessarily great to see that. Depth is a little bit, troubling for Penguins. They don't necessarily have the offensive depth they've had in the past. So I would only look toward under point total, take a flyer with them to miss the playoffs at a plus price. And that's it with Pittsburgh. I've got to see it with them. I got to see health. I got to see them, put it together. And I don't know if they will.
They're the type of team, though, and we've seen it before. Like we saw it last year when I thought they were going to be bad. That can still put up. I mean, would it shock you if they put up 100 points this year?
They're a wide range of possibilities. They could be the next best team in the Metro, out behind Carolina and the Rangers. They could be third in that division, which means they're a playoff team for sure. But they could miss the playoffs entirely. I think this is a very, very wide range of variance that we could see from the Pens this year.
And if they're bad this year, what are they going to look like in 4 years? This should be their best season over the next 6 years with the contracts that they just signed with Letang and Malkin. They're a tricky team to not believe in, and I felt the wrath of that last year.
Yep, there's some truth to that. But again, they're a tricky team to not believe in when everybody's there and accounted for. Mm-hmm. We don't know if we're going to get that. We've had Crosby at multiple years out with injuries, Letang, Malkin, all of them.
And Johnny K says Sully, one of the best coaches in the NHL.
He is.
Without
he is. Doubt. There's no question. Yeah, there's no question what he's been able to do in the past with so many key cogs out. It's been impressive. And he's one of the reasons why there's hope for Pittsburgh if they suffer a lot of attrition once again.
Let's move on to the Washington Capitals. They're 6-1 to win the division and 30-1 to win the Cup. They lose Justin Schultz and Michael Kempney. They bring in Kemper, Strome, Eric Gustafsson, the defenseman, and Henrik Borgstrom forward. The big issue is not who's coming in, who's coming out. It's who is hurt. And this is not good for this squad. They have Tom Wilson out till at least December 7th. They have Nick Backstrom out until at least January 1st. Backstrom's been losing his speed, and now he's going to come back from a hip injury. TJ Oshie day-to-day for the rest of his life. And Carl Hagelin is out with an eye injury that we don't think it's that bad. We don't think it's that bad. So we go over to their lineup. Now you don't have Tom Wilson on that line, who is an absolute monster. So Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Connor Brown. Connor Brown from the old Leafs 6th-round pick is on that first line to start the year. If Oshie's good to go, he'll play with Mantha, who we barely saw last year, and Strome. And then Johansson, Eller, and Sheary on the third line. Defensively, it's not a good defense. And you ask Carlson to do so much of the heavy lifting. And you talk about, who do I think could miss? I mean, why don't you take it away? But this Capitals team could be very vulnerable early and could force Ovechkin to play playoff hockey in games 1 through 30. Take it away, Bobano.
Yeah, they're another more anti-Washington than pro-Washington for me. This team, barely made the playoffs really the last 2 years and flamed out in the first round. They're getting an older group. I mean, the core with Ovechkin and Backstrom, who's been just one injury after another lately for him. There's issues right now with Washington. The defense wasn't great last year. I love how they throw Vanacek and Samsonov under the bus, this Washington team, saying, it's their fault we gave up so many goals this year. How about that blue line? I don't think it's a great blue line. Fehervari is still a developing player. He's not a finished, polished product. Carlson's good offensively. He's a little shaky in his own end. Orlov's the one steady shutdown defender they have. Everybody else is a dog's breakfast, as far as I'm concerned, on that Washington blue line. And now you're all of a sudden are going to put your faith and confidence in Kemper, who had a great regular season last year for Colorado, but playoffs a little bit more shaky. I thought he was good, steadied the ship a little bit. Maybe he'll be an upgrade, but again, a big reason why Kemper thrived in Colorado is Colorado made sure he didn't face as much rubber. Colorado just possessed the puck so much that obviously Darcy Kemper's not going to have to face as many shots. Well, that's going to change a little bit for Kemper here in Washington. It's thumbs down for me on the Caps. You're muted, Jim.
All right, thank you. Let's take a quick look at the season win total here for the Caps. Is this something we want to try and squeeze underneath? 94.5. What do you think? Is that something you want to squeeze underneath?
So I had the under on my potential playlist for the season point totals. It came out about where I was expecting, though. I would still only take the under. I don't know if I will, but I definitely would only look under.
And you get plus money, as Slatsy says, to not make the playoffs.
Yep.
Oh, this is so helpful. I love this show. All right, there you go. Let's move on to the New York Islanders, who went from overtime away from the Stanley Cup final to an atrocious 37, 35, and 10 season with 84 points, a plus 650 to win the division, and very quiet offseason. They pick up Dennis Cholowski, who I thought when he was drafted was going to be a beast for the Red Wings. They lose Chara and Andy Green. They do sign Barzal to a big contract extension, which is important. But at this point, you have Zach Parise on that first line with Wahlstrom and Barzal. You have Lee, who we need a bounce-back season from him. This guy signed a big contract and looked like an absolute monster and then got hurt, with Nelson and Beauvillier, Palmieri, Pajot, and Bailey on the third line. I mean, if it's Martin, Zekas, and Clutterbuck on the fourth line, that's one of the best fourth lines in the hockey. Palek and Pollock are very good defensively, of Romanov and Dobson. I mean, this could be a really strong defense. This could be a really strong team and a great bounce-back opportunity for the Islanders. We talked about what went wrong for them, and they were dealing with COVID to start the season, and it hurt them so badly. Getting out of the gate, losing 8 straight. I mean, it's very difficult to bounce back from that. Clutterbuck's day-to-day, but this is a healthy squad that could surprise, may surprise it. Are we getting value betting them in the futures market? Bobano, take it away.
I honestly don't have a lot of. I don't love the Islanders right now, plain and simple. I think Lou Lamoriello's got to hang up the GM job. I mean, I don't think he did a good job this offseason, other than just getting Matt Barzal done for a contract extension lately, the last couple days. You went in on Gaudreau, didn't get him. You went in on Kadri, didn't get him. Struck out twice in free agency. You haven't addressed this offense, which is still a problem, because to me, they don't have any sort of third and fourth line that gives you punch offensively. It's very top heavy. You rely on a couple of guys, Barzal. You rely on Beauvillier. And outside of that, there's a lot of question marks. Where's the offense going to come from consistently? The blue line was terrible last year for the Islanders when Pulock and Pelech weren't there. I always mention them over and over again when we talked about the Islanders. Pelech and Pulock, whenever they were out, that Islander defense wasn't the same. So they've got to be on the ice this year for them. Sorokin and Varlamov are solid goalies. I wouldn't say they're phenomenal, but they're solid goalies. But the jury is still out. I know last year they had a lot go against them. Injuries piled up. They had a COVID outbreak mid-season. They started the season on the road for the first month plus because they waited for the new arena to finish getting constructed, and that was a detriment to them. They're not going to have that bad schedule to deal with early in the season, but they're a wait-and-see team for me. That offense just was not improved, and this day and age in NHL, you got to put the puck in the net, and we haven't just seen that enough from the Islanders. And when you look at the other teams in the division, there's going to be some other teams that might be better than them. So I think it's going to be tough for the Islanders to me. I certainly, if I'm going to think of them positively, I'm going to have to see something first.
Season point total at 93.5, juiced quite heavily to the under. Let's move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets, 25-1 to win the division, 66-1 to win the cup. Oliver Bjorkstrand is gone. Johnny Hockey comes in, and Eric Goodbranson does as well. possibly the worst Corsi player we've ever seen. I don't know how. And not only that, but Goodbranson does not step up for his teammates. We think, oh, he's a tough guy, he's a fighter. He fights whenever it works for him. He does not back up his teammates.
He actually had a good year for all things considered for Calgary last year.
And that's why he's got a job here. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him anywhere near my fucking hockey team. I've watched too often him not step up when the Canucks would get hurt. And now look, he had an improved year last year, but he was the worst in the league Corsi wise as a Vancouver Canuck. He's slow. He doesn't back. Fuck him. Let's move over to the lines here. Goodrow is going to try to play Goodrow and Line A together, even though they have played the same position throughout their career. They're going to try to play them together. We'll see if that works. I love Boone Jenner. Fucking love him. So you got Jenner in between them. Voracek, Nyquist, and Roslovic. Nyquist is day-to-day, but he's, there. We're going to see Sillinger with the pressure off of him. A very highly thought of prospect. So we'll see what he does here. And defensively, Werenski and Boqvist. I do not have high hopes for this hockey team, but are they? Let's just see their season win total sitting here at 79.5. They're probably better than that, right? Probably. Let's hear what Bobano has to say. Blue Jackets.
Oh, offensively, they're going to be very good. That's not where I'm worried about. You get Johnny Gaudreau. They're probably going to play him with Patrick Laine, and you could only imagine how many goals could Patrick Laine score with Johnny Gaudreau feeding him the puck all year. That is going to be something to really behold. Jack Roslovic really had a huge breakout offensive season, especially in the second half last year. I was going crazy with the Roslovic props, player props late in the season. Jake Voracek can still make at a high level and offensively. Kent Johnson, watch out for him. If you're interested in the Calder Cup, award props, he might be worth a look at around 14 or 15 to 1. Kent Johnson's had some seasoning. He's played in the World Juniors. He's played some World Hockey Championship. And I think he's ready to have a pretty good season for the Jackets full time. So watch out for Kent Johnson. Sillinger's only going to get better. Justin Danforth, same thing. This is going to be a team that's going to be able to score. But man, defensively last year, they gave up, one of the worst in terms of goals allowed, shots on goal allowed, danger chances allowed. That defense is going to have to improve. And you've got a lot of guys that want to rush the puck up the ice. Werenski, Boqvist, Gavrikov. And then you've got some guys defensively a little lackluster. They're hoping Goodbranson can give them some of that. We'll have to wait and see. He did have a great year in Calgary. I think his best year, but was that a product of the Darryl Sutter defensive system? We'll have to wait and see. And we don't know if Elvis Merzlikins yet's a number one bona fide goaltender. He's still got some proving ground. So my initial thought with Columbus is bet some overs with this team this year. They're going to be in a lot of overs, a lot of high scoring games. They'll be able to score. They're going to struggle, I think, to keep the puck out of their net. I like teams that can score these days in the NHL. I think they'll be better, but I don't know if we're ready to trust them to be as much better as their point total indicates right now.
Move on to the New Jersey Devils next up for us. 91.5 point total. This is a team that put up 63 points last year. So the market thinks this is going to be a vastly improved squad. 29 points better. 25 to 1 to win the division, 50 to 1 to win the cup. They lose PK Subban, and that will be a positive for them. They lose Pavel Zacha. They bring in Andre Palat, which could really help a veteran presence out there. They bring in John Marino and Eric Howla as well. We look at this forward lineup, and look, we're waiting for Hischier and Hughes to be healthy because they're very capable of being a spectacular 1-2 unit. Hischier dealing with a hamstring injury to start the year, may not be ready on night one. Jasper Bratt was their best player. Hughes is their best player, but Jasper Bratt was their most, he played. He was healthy. He was stepped up. Palat, Hughes, and Bratt. I love Sharangovich, Hischier, and Mercer on the second line. Howla, Johnston, and Tatar on the third line. And then, look, Graves and Severson are going to have to step up defensively. You're asking a ton from them. I didn't like the Hamilton signing very much, and he's got to stay healthy for this team to succeed. Look at this Devils team. Are they going to be 30 points better than they were last year, Bobano?
There's no, it's under or nothing. And it's a shame because I kind of thought New Jersey, way before now, before the point totals came out, I thought, yeah, I think New Jersey might be underrated, undervalued, be able to make some money with them, maybe look at some futures. And then I see their point total is expecting them to be almost 30 points better than last year. You can't touch that. You just can't. And because they've got a lot of the same issues we just talked about with Columbus. Are they going to keep the puck out of the net? They're going to be able to score. The offense, and up front, they are very good with Jesper Bratt, with Jack Hughes, with Nico Hischier, with Thomas Tatar, with Andre Palat, who they get from the Tampa Bay Lightning, a little Stanley Cup winning experience now on this team. Eric Haula, a veteran center. Fabian Zetterlund showed you some offense down the stretch. Sharon Govich. What if Miles Wood stays healthy this year? He's a good offensive player, just good all-around forward for you. I mean, they're great up front. But again, Dougie Hamilton, injuries and shaky in his own end at times, but good offensively. But that's not good for your defense and keeping the puck out. Siegenthaler. Graves, more of a rusher, puck mover than he is great defensively. Severson is one of their better defensive defensemen, but he's not prone to the gaff every now and then and taking a penalty. Brendan Smith, good stay-at-home defenseman, physicality, willing to mix it up. I do like that they get John Marino from Pittsburgh. Maybe he underachieved a little with the Penguins, but change of scenery for a defenseman, I think it's pretty good. But at the end of the day, Vanacek up and down with Washington last year in net, and Blackwood, who has been injured all the time, and then when he is on the ice, he's good one game, he's bad the next game. I can't trust them defensively, so for that reason, I'm not going to ask them to be 30 points better when I've got issues defensively with this team, so could only look under the point total.
Yeah, wow. I think you're right.
I was shocked by that. Of all the point totals, I don't know if I was more shocked by New Jersey's. Just that much improvement being called for by odds makers.
Let's get through the Flyers pretty quickly here because we'll have about 14 or 15 minutes for each division after this. So let's get through the Flyers. They're going to be god-awful. 40-1 to win the division, 80-1 to win the cup. Should be more than that. They lose Giroux and Keith Yandel. It'll be good to not have Yandel out there. And they bring in Artem Anisimov and Tony DeAngelo. How is Tony DeAngelo going to
Tony DeAngelo and John Tortorella personalities, they'll mesh well together.
It's just unbelievably bad. And it's sad. It's sad that we're sitting here and Ryan Ellis is probably done.
We're talking career done. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved him. Loved him at Windsor for the Spitfires. He's just a guy I've always really liked. I loved him when he started out in Nashville. Small defenseman that was able to step up when needed to, and it just sucks. It just sucks he's not going to be available. Couturier needs to be healthy. Cam Atkinson's day-to-day, and Couturier is on the IR to start the year. This team could be really, really bad. You have Frost, Konechny, and Van Riemsdyk in the first line. Farabee, who may not even start the year as well. He's probably not. He's out at least with a neck injury, but listed here. Anisimov, Cates, and Tippett is your third line. That has to be the worst third line in the NHL. Ristolainen has not been the player that we thought he was going to be, and it's just a very, very difficult situation for this squad. I'm very worried, and everybody should be about the Flyers. They could be the worst team in the NHL. Take it away.
The bet I made says so. A couple months ago, I took 15-1 plus 1,500. Philadelphia Flyers, worst regular season record. So, and look, I know Chicago, Arizona, San Jose, Montreal, they're all teams that are higher up, favored more to be the worst team. I think Philly could beat all of them for worst team. I think Philly's just in a world of hurt right now. You already have Torts calling out the dressing room, even before he gets there for training camp, saying we got issues in our dressing room. We got to figure it out. That's going to endear yourself to the players. Tony DeAngelo, look, he was on his best behavior in Carolina, but you put him with a combustible personality like Torts. I don't know if that's going to go well. Couturier's out 1 to 3 months. They're thinking about Morgan Frost, who has proven nothing. Squad at the NHL level as their first-line center to begin the year. That tells you where they're at right now in Philadelphia. The blue line, Ristolainen's been a bust. Terrible contract, terrible job by Chuck Fletcher signing that guy to as much money and term as he did. Provorov has to bounce back. He had a terrible year, a huge decline last year. He's got to be back for the Flyers to do anything this year. Sanheim's okay, not great. Braun, his best days behind him. And then you got Sealer, and you've got Kevin Connaughton, a journeyman defenseman. That blue line's weak. And of course, you've got Carter Hart, who, can be good, but I think he needs a somewhat decent defense in front of him. I don't know if he's going to have that. This could be the worst team in the league. And I think at 15-1, it's been bet down to 11-1. I still think there's value at that price for them to be at the bottom.
I love that bet. That is the Metropolitan Division. Move on to the Atlantic Division now. We've got to speed this up a little bit because I want to spend time on the Pacific Division. Yep. Atlantic Division, Florida Panthers plus 220 to win the division. 122 points last year, 58-18-6, 9-1 to win this cup. It is too bad that Duclair is going to be out for the first half of the season. The Achilles, I love him. I love the way he plays. They lose Jonathan Huberdeau, Mason Marchment, Claude Giroux, who wasn't, just there for the horrific playoff run. Mackenzie Weegar and Ben Sherratt. They bring in Matthew Tkachuk, Chris Tierney, Michael Delzato, and Mark Stahl. And, it's easy to say that I would take Matthew Tkachuk over Huberdeau any day of the week, any time of the day. But they also got Weegar, and you can say that Treliving did a good job, and we'll get to Calgary here in a bit. But let's talk about this squad right now. Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Balser is on the first line. Tkachuk, Bennett, and Reinhart. Tkachuk, Bennett, and Reinhart is like a line that I would just dream about having on my hockey team. This team, they're going to be so tough and mean, and Bennett and Tkachuk already like each other. They're all really high draft picks. I'm in love with that line. Bennett, Tkachuk, and Reinhart. That's the line of my playoff dreams. But they don't have a ton of depth offensively. They have Hornqvist on the fourth line, Lundell centering the third line. It's going to be interesting to see if Cousins can step up. And Ekblad got hurt last year. They need him to be healthy. They don't have a ton of depth defensively. And we know that Radko Gudas can hit, but his Corsi numbers are not very good. He's often out of position. What do you think of this Panthers squad, and what do you think of them early, and how do you plan on betting them? Take it away.
In time, they could still be pretty good. I think they're going to stumble early. I think they're going to have some struggles early. I think I might be looking for spots to fade the Panthers in October and maybe even in November. Paul Maurice, the new head coach, does not want them to play the style they played previously with Coach Q and with Andrew Brunette, where they played transition hockey, rush chance hockey, up and down the ice, north-south. He wants them to play, and you know what Paul Maurice is like, what style he brings. He brings a cycle game. He brings a forecheck game, and work the puck in the offensive zone to get our chances. Does that fit with this Florida roster? That's the question. The good news is you brought in Tkachuk, who does fit that kind of style well, cycle, and, get in on the forecheck, be physical to win puck battles. That does help. You get him there. But you look at what they lost, and Mason Marchment was a huge part of that offense for parts of last year. He's gone. You worry about that. Huberdeau being gone hurts because he was just such a great playmaker for this team. Does that impact Barkov maybe a little bit negatively? That's a question. Bennett and Reinhart, still pretty good. But again, that third and the fourth line, in my opinion, Jimmy, doesn't have the offensive depth it did last year, especially with Duclair starting the season injured. When you're talking Lundell and Cousins and Lomberg and Hornqvist and Luostarinen, I don't know. And Ekblad and Mackenzie Weegar last year as the top pair, Jimmy, was a great pair. It was a phenomenal top pair. And I think that's a little bit of a concern that they lose Weegar as well to Calgary. And now Ekblad's going to have to play with, it looks like, Gustav Forsling. Do we know if Gustav Forsling's good enough to be a top pair defenseman? I sure don't. I mean, we saw Weegar was capable, and Ekblad and him had so much chemistry, Ekblad and Weegar. And now you put Forsling there. You've got Carlson. You've got a slow foot, Gudas, Mark Stahl, who's been around forever now. How much does he have left? And I like Montour, but there's questions on the blue line. And Sergei Bobrovsky, if you've been paying attention, has not been good in preseason. And they just re-signed Spencer Knight. Don't be shocked if Spencer Knight's going to take over as the number one. I think it's only a matter of time. I think it could even happen as early as opening night. But Bobrovsky's been fighting the puck in preseason. But I think early in the season, it's going to be an adjustment for this team with the new players, with losing Weegar. I think Ekblad's going to have a little bit of a tougher time getting used to Forsling, who's not the player Weegar was. The goaltending question mark, offensive depth, the question mark. I think early in the season, you can fade Florida. There'll be some spots. I think they could get off to a slow start.
Yeah, I agree. But that second line, though, is like my favorite line probably in the NHL. I just like that's exactly the type of sandpaper mixed with
Yes.
scoring and fighting and everything. I agree that it sucks to lose Marchment because there were times he was the only Panther who'd punch you in the face. Let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, 54-21 and 715 points, 2-1 to win the division, 8-1 to win the cup. Those numbers blow my mind. Now, you could say the numbers are like that because they're not going to finish the year with Matt Murray and Samsonov. They're going to make a move for a goaltender, an elite goaltender at some point this season. I cannot believe that they're starting the year with Matthew Murray and Samsonov. I just can't. I mean, it just, you have these absolute studs, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and you just want them to know that their goalie will make the big save. So they're not afraid to sometimes cheat out of the zone or risk offensively. The Bunting, Matthews, Marner line is going to be great. There's a lot of talk in Toronto, and I'm sure you've heard of trying Nylander at center instead of Tavares. Tavares actually hasn't been ruled out. He's dealing with an oblique injury. They say he's not going to be back to start the year, but he hasn't been ruled out to start the season. And then, Riley, Brody, Sandin, Muzzin, Giordano, Hall. That's a good defensive group. And I don't think I've said that about the Leafs in years.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's too bad because this team, if we're not talking about their goaltending, is very good. And everyone who played hockey remembers what it's like when you don't know if your goalie is going to make the big save. You change how you play. Take it away for us, Bobano. I think these low odds are way too low on the Leafs with their goaltending situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, plus it's show me in the playoffs you can win one series, let alone win a Stanley Cup. I mean, that's where we're at right now with Toronto. But I do agree. I think the blue line's better. I think getting Giordano back for a full season helps. I mean, offensive, up front, they're fine. That's never been an issue. Bunting has replaced Hyman adequately well with Matthews and Marner. Nylander, Kerfoot, good additions. Watch out for Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson looks like he's going to make this team finally, and he's looked great in preseason. You could even go a flyer on him at a big price, Calder Trophy winner. I think 35-1. It's not bad, especially because if he's going to get the opportunity on a second line, he's going to get ice time. He's going to get opportunity, power play time, 5-on-5. So keep an eye on that. But, it comes down to Murray and Samsonov. They might win the Stanley Cup if their September performance in preseason is any indication, because both of those goalies have been great here in preseason, but you don't get anything for preseason performance. It's regular season and playoffs, and that's where the jury's out. So wait and see with Toronto. They
lose Mikheyev and Kase, Colin Blackwell, and Jack Campbell. They bring in Yarncroc, but you're right about Nick Robertson. There's talk here that he'll be the second line center to start the year if Tavares isn't ready to go. So
Which he won't be. Yeah, he'll be out for a couple of weeks, Johnny. Yeah.
They haven't, Bobano, I was listening yesterday. They haven't said that for sure. There's some talk that he actually will be ready game one, but he won't be able to take face-offs and that he'll play the wing in game one. But the whole offseason, we've expected him not to be available. But let's move on and speed it up a little bit. Tampa Bay Lightning up next, 110 points last year, plus 225 to win the division, 10-1 to win the cup. They lose Palat, McDonough, and Ruda. They bring in the Mesnikov, Ian Cole, Philip Myers, and Hayden Fleury. This is a situation where, I've always felt this way. And everyone says, oh, it's so hard when you play, 100 games a year. That's not hard. What's hard is when you play 100 games, the players on your team get raises and you can't keep them on your team. And I'm not saying it's easy to play 100 games each year, but it's more the fact that you can't keep teams together because of the cost associated with success. This Lightning team will have Point, Kucherov, and Stamkos on the first line. Look, we know what they can do. Is Nick Paul as good as we saw him in the playoffs? Can he really be a second-line center? Or is that Paul, Killorn, Hagel line not a good second line? Colton, Mestikov, Fortier, is that a bad third line? And Perry and Maroon on the fourth line? How slow are Corey Perry and Patrick Maroon this year? This team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Incredible goaltending. Their defense, Hedman, Foote, Cernak, Sergachev, Cole Myers is going to be strong. But, what do they really have offensively after that first line? Is this going to be a team that we bet unders with, throughout the year? It's very possible. Bogosian out and Cirelli out until December. Take it away, Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, this is a team that I'm going to be looking for spots to fade them early in the season as well, because again, they've played a lot of hockey. They've been to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. And I think that blue line is weakened. Jan Root is a big loss because he blocks a lot of shots. He suppresses a lot of offense from the other team. He's gone. Ryan McDonough's gone. And now all of a sudden, I like Bogosian, but I like Bogosian in small doses. I don't want him playing 20 minutes tonight. He's going to have to play more. They're going to have to ask more from Cal Foote. And some of these other defensemen, Philippe Myers, a journeyman. That blue line's not as good for Tampa. Up front, they're fine. Nick Paul was terrific. It's very important they signed him now that they lost Palat. Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, you know what you're going to get from them. Brandon Hagel disappointed, I'll be honest, a little bit last year with Tampa after they got him from Chicago. So he's got to step up, but they played a shit ton of hockey. I don't think their blue line's as good. Vasilevsky, one of the best goalie going. He's capable of stealing games any night. That's always the scary thing. But I don't know. To me, Tampa Bay, especially early in the season, and this is a team that's playing a pace-yourself regular season. I don't think they give two shits about a division win or anything like that. Just get in the playoffs, pace your way through the regular season, then turn it on at playoff time. So in the regular season, don't be surprised if Tampa Bay is a money-losing team.
Yeah, and maybe a team that will play the unders. Because if against a team with a strong defensive shutdown line, you slow down that first line. Where's the scoring going to come from? So interesting here. Let's move on to the Boston Bruins. 8-1 to win the division. Had 107 points last year. 25-1 to win the Cup. Howla and Josh Brown are gone. Krejci, Zacha, and Keith Kincaid are coming in. You have Grzelcyk. I always mess up his name. He's going to be out probably until November 1st. That hurts their D. Marchand with the hip injury going to be out till December 1st. Charlie McAvoy going to be out till December 1st. These are, Taylor Hall, I'm not a big fan of it all, but he might not be able to start the season with an upper body injury. These are huge pieces of the Bruins puzzle that aren't going to be there. So, Bergeron, DeBrusque on the first line, Krejci, Pasternak, and they're hoping for Hall on the third line. Coyle, Smith, Frederick, Zacha, Nosek, and Foligno. McAvoy is not going to be. This is what is their season total right now for the Bruins? 95.5, heavily juiced to the under. I know why. I get why it's heavily juiced to the under. Take it away for us, Bobano, Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I like the under 95.5 points with them. I think, even asking them to miss the playoffs might be worth a look. I think it's going to be tough, and it's just because they're going to be without so many key pieces. Look, to begin the season, you mentioned Grzelcyk and McAvoy. You meant Marchand, and you one-third of one of the best top lines in the NHL with him and Bergeron and Pasternak. You don't have much offensive depth, and now you got Taylor Hall, believe it or not, out, and we don't know if he'll be ready to start the season as well. So where's that depth in offense? It's the same issue last year. It's why they got bounced by Carolina. You shut down the big three. They didn't get offense consistently from anyone. Hall in glimpses, Coyle in glimpses. That's about it. Defensively, they're much weakened. That's two of their best defensemen, Grzelcyk and especially McAvoy. You got to fill those holes. I don't know if they can. Jeremy Swayman I like, but, he's still, I think, got to have the table set around him to be really good. The defense is going to be short-handed to begin the year. So I think especially early, there's going to be opportunities to fade Boston. And I think they're going to be tough to make the playoffs, especially with the Atlantic, the bottom four, all looking like better teams this year.
Yeah. Oh, well put. Let's keep rolling. We don't have a ton of time. Buffalo Sabres next up. 32, 39, 11 last year. 75 points. They surprised. They were good. Better than we thought. 25-1 to win the division. 50-1 to win the Cup. They don't really, they lose Jankowski and Colin Miller. Not big losses. They didn't bring in much. They're really, really handcuffed financially because of some terrible contracts that they have to deal with. Skinner being one of them. Okposo being another one of them. Skinner, Thompson, Olofsson on the first line. Tuck, Middlestad, Quinn on the second line. Asplund, Gergens, Okposo, if he's good to go. He might not be ready. Dahlin is going to be great. He's going to be a very, very good defenseman. They bring in Eric Comrie, who could be a legit number one goaltender. I wouldn't put it past him. I've enjoyed watching him come up. Remember that to get the backup position in Winnipeg was very difficult. There was a lot of goaltenders vying to play behind Hellebuck. And Comrie was the best of them. I'm curious to see what he does this year. Take it away for us, Bobano, the Buffalo Sabres.
So I do like this team to be better. I think the ceiling is they contend or at least get close to the mix for a playoff spot, at least contend for one. But that is the ceiling. They could also be not a whole lot better than last year, but I do think they're better. I think offensively they're going to be quite. If Skinner and Okposo play like they did last year, like bad contracts, but they both played good last year. Bounce back for Skinner, and Okposo was better as well last year for the Sabres. And Tage Thompson's worth a flyer for that Rocket Richard too. Like he's going to, I think, get the chance to get 40 goals. He's lighting it up already in preseason. He had a breakout year. I know he's been paid, and sometimes you worry that he's gotten the money. He's not going to show up. Not this guy. He looks like he wants to prove he's worth it. Tage Thompson, Olofsson got better with his 5-on-5 offense. They have Middlestat, they have Tuck, and all these young kids are really high upside. Jack Quinn, Peyton Krebs, Dylan Cousins, J.J. Peterka. Watch out for him. He's going to probably make the team. He's looked great in preseason. The blue line, they got 3 just dynamos to build around. Samuelson, Rasmus Dahlin had a bounce-back year, and, of course, Owen Power, the number 1 overall pick. Wow, what a blue line with that young core. Labushkin gives them some sandpaper. They get him from Toronto. I think that blue line's a little bit better. My one concern with Buffalo is in net. Old Craig Anderson in his 40s. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who hasn't developed as quickly as we hoped. Eric Comrie was great in the backup role, his best year ever with Winnipeg, but if he gets more starts, can he play well again? That's the question. The goaltending's still the shaky part, but Buffalo's better. Buffalo will play a lot of overs as well. I think they're going to be in some high-scoring games.
But that defense, imagine them in a couple of years.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Sabre fans have a lot to be excited about, and I can't wait to get down there, watch some games. Detroit Red Wings next up, 25-1 to win the division, 50-1 to win the conference. They fire Blashill and hire Derek Lalonde, and we saw what Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond are capable of, and they've made some key additions. They lose Mark Stahl and Thomas Greiss, but they bring in David Perron, Andrew Kopp, who might not be able to start the year, Dominic Kubalik. I thought he was hurt, but I don't see him on the, so he must not. And you know what? I just saw him hit score a one-timer. So,
Yep.
But I thought there was
he's healthy. Yep.
Ben Sherratt, Oli Mata, and Ville Husso is there as well. And Bertuzzi can come to Canada now. You don't need to be vaxxed. So Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Raymond are very dangerous. I like Kopp a lot. Kopp, Vrana, and Perron is a strong second line. Kubalik, Suter, and Zadina could be a really strong third line. This could be a good hockey team. They're really counting on a young defense to step up. It's not going to be easy for them. What's your take on the Detroit Red Wings?
I really like Detroit this year. I really like what Steve Yzerman did. I got a flyer on them to make the playoffs. I've got them over their point total this year. And I think unlike Buffalo and a team we'll talk about, Ottawa, I think defensively they're a little better than both teams, especially keeping the puck out. I think they're going to be better because they bring in Oli Mata, good veteran defenseman. Ben Sherratt, good veteran defenseman to help Mo Seider, some of these young blue liners. Perron's a great two-way forward, not just offensively, but he's defensively responsible. That's going to help the defensive game. Andrew Kopp, two-way center, great at both ends of the ice. That's going to help the defensive numbers and the goals against. Really like what Steve Yzerman did with this team. And Lucas Raymond is only going to get better. Dylan Larkin, of course, still playing great. Tyler Bertuzzi is going to be able to play every game now. Vrana, Kubalik, if he can get back to the 30-goal Kubalik we saw a few years ago in his first year with Chicago, he's going to help offensively. They should be able to score. Hopefully Zadina steps up. Got a lot of options there. Wait till Robbie Fabry and Oscar Sundqvist are ready to return from injury as well. Like I said, the blue line's improved. Ville Husso and net with Nedeljkovic is a great tandem. I think they can push for a playoff spot. I'm not kidding. I really think they can. That's how high I am on Detroit. Like them over their point total as well.
I love when the hockey's good in Detroit and Buffalo. I'm excited. Yeah. Let's speed it up. Ottawa Senators next. They lose Tierney, Connor Brown, Colin White, Michael Del Zotto, Victor Mete, and Matt Murray. They bring in Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux, and Cam Talbot. Let's take a look at their injuries very quickly here for this squad. Talbot going to be out at least until the second week of November. Yep. That is not what they were hoping for.
No.
But, man, is this team capable of offense with Stutzla, Batherson, and Kachuk on that first line. You have Norris, Giroux, and DeBrincat on the second line. I like the pickup of Tyler Mott. And you have a defenseman in Thomas Chabot that is capable of a point a game and power play. Now they've made a ton of changes, and generally I like to bet unders on a team that's made a ton of changes and everybody's excited about it. It's sitting at 86.5. It's a pretty sharp number. Take it away for us, Bobano, the Ottawa Senators.
They're going to be better too, but again, the defense is a concern. Outside of Shabbat, there's a lot of question marks on that Ottawa blue line in terms of keeping the puck out, and that was a disaster for them last year. Travis Hamonic, I can't trust him to stay healthy either. There's issues on the blue. They're loaded up front. I mean, Kachuk, Norris, Batherson, DeBrincat from Chicago, Stützle, Giroux now, Shane Pinto on a third line. Are you kidding me? I mean, offensively up front, they're spectacular. I mean, they've got three lines that can legitimately score any given night. Over with Ottawa game-wise in terms of their game totals. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Forsberg's going to have to start in net for them to start the year. He's still going to have a weak defense behind him, but they're going to be able to score. No question that offense looks good. I like Ottawa to improve. I lean to their point total, but I'm higher on Detroit than I am Ottawa. But Ottawa over the total in a lot of their games. That's what I'm going to be betting a lot in October.
They could be very good. Let's quickly go through this Montreal Canadiens team that's going to be god-awful. Horrible news on the injury front. Is Price going to play again? Now Nick Suzuki's day-to-day with an injury. Armia, Edmondson, Byron hurt. This is going to be an ugly season for these guys. 80-1 to win the cup, to win the division, 125-1 to win the cup. Caulfield is Monahan actually going to be a first-line center? I mean, crazy. Gallagher, Doc, and Hoffman. You know, you have the number one overall pick who really underwhelmed in the preseason, Slavkovsky, Dvorak, and Anderson. You know, they have some okay pieces. You talked about Matheson. And what are your thoughts here for this Habs squad?
It's because everybody else is looking like they're going to be better. What does that leave Montreal? And that's going to be the issue. And they don't have a lot of offense from their third and their fourth line. It's going to be top heavy. They're going to need Hoffman, Anderson, Monahan to bounce back, Drouin, Caulfield to be big. And that blue line outside of Matheson, Jimmy, it's just, especially with Joel Edmondson out to start the year on IR. I mean, David Savard, Jordan Harris, Justin Barron, Madison Bowie, Chris Weidman. That's a horrible blue line outside of Mike Matheson. That's just not very good in my opinion. And now you got Jake Allen, who's so-so, Sam Montembeault, same thing as your two goalies. Tough stuff for Montreal. Very tough.
Awful to have that.
They did play better with St. Louis, and they played with a lot better structure and team-oriented play. But that's a lot to overcome. A lot of injuries already, weak defense, suspect goaltending. Hard to overcome that, especially in a division everyone's getting better.
I wish we had more time. We don't. So we're going to have to do about a minute on each team almost.
Yes.
Central Division, Colorado Avalanche. We're over to the Western Conference. They bring in Georgiev, Evan Rodriguez, and Lucas Zedlak. They lose Kadri, Kemper, Burakovsky, Jack Johnson, Nico Sturm, Aubrey Kubel. This is the penalty of being good. Gabriel Landeskog won't skate anytime soon. I cannot believe that they opened 425. If anybody likes them, just sit back and wait. Comfer and Helm are now day-to-day as well. They are 425 to win the cup, minus 175 to win the division. Look, Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen, they're going to be nasty. Newhook, I think, is the real deal with Nichushkin. Rodriguez will probably move up to that second line. Comfer, O'Connor. This is, Cale Makar. A lot of the old heads are saying that he's the best defenseman since Bobby Orr. And that's pretty high praise. And he's not the only beast. You got Taves, Byram, Gerard on this defense. This defense is nasty.
Blue line's incredible still, yeah.
Yeah, take it away for us, my man.
Blue line's incredible. Forward, of course, Landeskog won't start the year, but they've still got enough depth. They lose Kadri, but again, I think Newhook can be serviceable there. With Nichushkin, glad they brought Big Val back. I do worry about the goaltending, though, because both Georgiev and Francouz have looked a little shaky in preseason. Georgiev got lit up the other night, by the way. That does bother me. Look, Kemper, was he always great in the playoffs? No, but he had a great regular season. Do we know if Georgiev and Francouz can have a great regular season? This is a team that actually might have to outscore opponents early in the season. So early season overs for Colorado games, unless I see this goaltending play better than it has so far. That's what I'm thinking. And yes, pump the brakes on betting Colorado futures right now.
Oh, you'll get a nice number.
Get healthy.
Let's talk about the Minnesota Wild. There's a ton of really passionate Minnesota Wild fans, and you guys are fucked. Don't get it twisted. don't believe in your hockey team, you're playing at an enormous disadvantage of everybody in NHL. And look, you have some really great players, and that's going to make it hurt even worse. I don't know how I don't move on this under 99.5 points. In 22-23, the buyouts are going to be 12 points for Parise and Suter. They're going to cost $12.75 million against the cap. So every other team has $13 more million than you. Then the following 2 years, it's $14.75 million. That's why Guerin went all in last year. He went all in, and you guys couldn't do it. You're in a very, very tough spot if you're a Wild fan, because you look at some of the guys you have on your team and you're like, man, we're a really good hockey team, but you guys are playing at such a disadvantage, and that disadvantage will hurt you. Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello. I love Zuccarello and Kaprizov together. Hartman looked great. Joel Eriksson-Ek is someone that I love a lot. I think that Green, White, Eriksson-Ek, Foligno line is one of my favorite lines in hockey. But then what's going to happen to your depth? Now, you got Boldy, who could be absolutely spectacular, but your depth, there are going to be injuries, and you will not be able to fill them out because of the salary cap recapture. Take it away for us. 325 to win the division, 20-1 to win the cup. Take it away, Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, see, I don't think they're going to fall off as much as you do, but I'm also got questions. I also have concerns. I didn't bet Minnesota anything. Futures, I didn't bet any win totals or point totals over or under. They're a wait-and-see kind of team for me. Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello, Boldy, I think, has got to be big for them because and Eriksson-Ek, if he can deliver what he did last year, because the third and the fourth line, is Rossi going to take that step? That's a question mark. Foligno, can he bring you some offense? That's going to be a question mark as well. But defensively, Brodin, Dumba, Middleton, Spurgeon, I like that foursome. Who's going to step up, fill the 5-6 spots? And has Marc-Andre Fleury got one more great year in him? As he gets another year older, it's a question mark. And you have Philip Gustafsson, who wasn't very good in Ottawa, behind him. So Fleury better play well. So I'm with you. There's concerns about Minnesota, but I didn't play him anyway.
Both Merrill and Greenway will be out, the defenseman and forward, respectively, out until November 1st. Move on to the St. Louis Blues. And they had quite a bit of changeover as well, and they are dealing with a bunch of injuries. You could say they're not to the most key pieces, but you have a Barbashev, Logan Brown, Anthony Angelo day-to-day, Prunovich out for the year, and then Scandella out for the year, and Toropchenko out until December 1st. You have O'Reilly, Carew, and Saad on that first line. They add Grice and Achari, but they lose Perron and Husso. Thomas signs a big contract. Buchnevich and Tarasenko could be a very dangerous line. Luke Shen is slowing down. And then, look, I love Parayko. I love him. He's an absolute monster. But this Blues squad is sitting here with a 97.5 point total juice to the under. I get why it's juice to the under. Take it away.
Yeah, I do a little bit too, but I'm also a little shocked that the Stanley Cup future is where it is. At 40-1. I think I actually, believe it or not, think there's some value on them to win the cup this year. Even with
22-1 at Bet365, by the way.
Yeah, it's moved. Okay, so it's definitely moved because I remember looking at it a month ago and it was 40. So there's been some move then on St. Louis. Okay, well, 22 is where it should be. That's good. So it was 40, believe it or not, earlier in the summer, which to me was nuts. I mean, St. Louis might have some concerns, but not that many. I still think they're going to score. St. Louis last year, they became more of an over team. A good offense. The defense declined a little bit. The goaltending was up and down. I think we could see that this year. I think they can score. I like, Robert Thomas is ready to be a top-line center. I think he's ready. I think he was phenomenal last year. You got Tarasenko, Buchnevich, Saad, O'Reilly, Kyrou. Braden Shen can still, like you're right, slowing down a bit, but he's still above average offensively. I think that blue line, especially Perunovich, was going to be a big part of it. Gone is going to hurt. Krug, Falk slowing down a bit. Leddy's an older guy. Parayko, great defenseman, but even he missed some time with injury. Binnington bounced back in the playoffs, but going to play well for a full year. I think they'll be more of a 5-4-6-5 team this year, St. Louis.
Wow. And they're 36-1 at Bookmaker. So you can, futures, you got to shop around.
You have to.
Dallas Stars next up. They bring in Mason Marchment. He's going to help. They lose Klingberg, Radulov, Holtby, and Sekera. We saw bounce back seasons from Duchesne and sort of from Ryan Johansson. But Seguin and Ben, I just don't think are capable of stepping up. And Robertson is such a monster. Hintz is so incredible, but these contracts that are hanging around their neck are going to really hurt. And now Heiskanen's got to do everything for this team. We already saw, the Wild not want Suter on their team. How much can you expect from him here? 14-1 to win the division, 35-1 to win the cup, and I'm not going to have anything to do with their futures, although I did last year. Take it away, Bobano.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, it's a tough situation here altogether. And you look at it too, Ben and Sagan, if they go as those two guys go, and I don't know what I get from them every single night for the Dallas Stars. That's a concern as well. Jason Robertson, thank goodness they got him signed. It just got done, Slatsy. They just re-signed him last night, so he will be ready to go for opening night. Thank goodness for that. But a lot of question marks. There's no question marks in net, though. It's going to be that feel for me with Dallas where if they're going to have success this year, Jake Ottinger is going to have to play as good as he did against Calgary in the playoffs. The defense loses Klingberg as well. It's a huge piece to miss. I know they got Lindell and they got Heiskanen and still some good players back there, but they'll miss Klingberg for sure. I'm not a big Pete DeBoer fan. I don't like the way that team played late in the season. Vegas last year under DeBoer, they kind of flatlined, petered out, stumbled, spit the bit, whatever you want to call it. Not the biggest Peter DeBoer fan. Probably more anti-Dallas than pro-Dallas.
I hate DeBoer. So I'm nothing to do with Dallas futures this year. Predators next up, 97 points last year. Duchesne, 43 goals and 86 points. It surprised me. I did not expect them to do that. And I don't like them. They bring in McDonough, Niederreiter. I like that. I don't know what Lankinen's going to do. They lose Kunin, Benning, and Riddick. Granlund, Duchesne, Forsberg, Niederreiter, Johansson, and Tomasino. Tomasino's got to step up. Janot was awesome last year. They have Sissons and Glass. They have some young talent. And what can you say about Roman Josi? He's absolutely spectacular. Take it away, Predators.
I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Josi to duplicate last year because it was just such a sensational year, best of his career. Can Duchesne and Johansson keep going because they had a bounce back year? Can I count on that again? If they don't, if they take a step back, I think there's going to be problems because you're going to have to rely more. Forsberg's slowing down a bit. Niederreiter's a nice add, but you're going to have to rely more on Trennan, Jeannot, Tolvin, and some of those depth forwards. A blue line, McDonough, they add for Stanley Cup experience. But again, I don't know if they're buying low on McDonough. McDonough's played a shit ton of hockey now. He's in his 30s. I don't know if you're going to get the best Ryan McDonough. Saros has to stay healthy because Lankinen and Ingram behind him aren't it. I'm more of a sell on Nashville for me, and I'm not a John Hines guy.
Winnipeg Jets, shocking that Bonus's first move was to rip the C off of Blake Wheeler's sweater. Hellebuck was so bad last year. Can we expect him to be better? They didn't add. They bring in Riddick and Sam Gagner. Gagner still has a job in the NHL. 20-1 to win the division, 50-1 to win the cup, and 88.5 points is their point total over under right now. Take it away, Winnipeg Jets.
So Rick Bowness got Dallas to buy into defense and good structure, and they tried to play low-scoring games. And I think he's going to try to get that with Winnipeg because they struggled defensively last year. But I don't know if he's got the Dallas blue line to make that kind of a system work. Morrissey and DeMello I like, but I don't know if they're top-pair defensemen. And then Stanley, Pionk, Dillon, and Schmidt, the other defensemen, they all underperformed last year. He's got to get a lot more out of them Bonus if they're going to be a better defense. Hellebuck's got to bounce back. He had a rough year. And forget Big Siv Dave. He's not going to give you anything to rely on in net. Connor, look, they're going to be able to get goals from Connor. From Ehlers is great. Connor is great. I think Scheifele will step up. Pierre-Luc Dubois. Blake Wheeler's offense is slowing down, though, and hopefully they get something out of these kids. Morgan Barron, Cole Perfetti. These are guys they're high on offensively. Hopefully they get something from them. But to me, I've got questions with Winnipeg.
Chicago Blackhawks. Are they ever atrocious? Some books cap futures at 125-1. That's where they are to win the division and the cup. They're clearly more than 125-1. They bring in Jack Johnson, Max Domi, Alex Stalock, Andreas Athanasiou, Colin Blackwell, and Peter Mrazek. They lose Doc, DeBrincat, Strome. Losing DeBrincat upset Kane so much. I guess they'd become best friends. Kane and Taves are still there, but for how long? This team is it's sad what's happened to them. So take it away for us. That Seth Jones move blew up in their face.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Blackhawks here?
Yeah, tough spot for Luke Richardson, who I think is a good hockey guy and not a bad hire, but just a tough situation to inherit. You know, you're probably not going to have Kane after the trade deadline. You got all kinds of question marks in the bottom six now this year. Who's going to score for you? You better hope Domi and Tennessee give you something. You brought them in. The blue line, it's already banged up too. And your best, stay-at-home defenseman is Jake McCabe, and he's on IR. So this is another team that they could score some goals, Chicago, but they're going to be horrible defensively. And Peter Mrazek and Alex Stalock. Mrazek is never healthy, and when he is, he's inconsistent, and Stalock's terrible. It could be one of the worst goalie tandems in the league. So Chicago overs, and it'll be fade Chicago or not. Nothing, but at the same time, you're not going to get a bargain to fade Chicago probably.
Calgary Flames, 111 points last year. They're plus 240 to win the division, 15-1 to win the cup. They bring in Huberdeau, Kadri, and Weegar. They lose Kachuk, Goodrow, and Yarncroc. And this Treliving, everyone's saying he did such a good job. Did he? Because when Huberdeau is 37 and 38, making over $10 million a year, really? $10.5 million? You think that's going to be good? I mean, Huberdeau did not want to come to the Flames, so Treliving opens up the fucking wallet and pays him more than he should have and gives him more term than he should have just so he would be happy to be in Calgary. Look, you pay him $84 million. Yeah, he's happy to be in Calgary. But this year, Huberdeau, and for the next few years, will help a ton. Huberdeau, Lindholm, and Toffoli. I was so upset that they got Kadri. Mangiapane, Kadri, and Milano. Isn't that a line that you would pay money to see? They're going to be good. Is their defenseman going to take a step up with Weegar? Talk to us about the Calgary Flames.
I really like this team. I've got futures on them to win the Cup, win the West. I really think they can. I think they actually could be as good, if not better, than last year. And that's shocking considering they lost 215 points from Gaudreau and Kachuk from last year, losing both of them. But I think Huberdeau is going to be fired up. I think he's going to want to say, hey, Florida, you made a mistake. I think he's going to have that mindset. Apparently, all the problems he had, he was not that anti-Calgary. It was just he was shocked. He was floored that Florida and Bill Zito traded him. It was, and I think he's going to settle in, and he's going to get. It's going to be fine, I think, with him in Calgary. Weegar, and look, I said how it's going to impact Ekblad in Florida. Getting him now, and you look at the Calgary blue line with Weegar and Tanev and Zadorov and Rasmus Anderson, Hanifin, and Oliver Shillington, who was one of the most improved defensemen last year. I mean, that is a very good 1 through 6 blue line. Huberdeau, Lindholm, Toffoli, Kadri, Mangiapane, Blake Coleman. I like the top 9 forwards. They got the checking line. They got Trevor Lewis, who's been with Sutter forever. They're going to play very good defense. That's what I love about the forward groups, Jimmy. They're all forwards are responsible defensively. That's how you win at playoff time. Calgary's going to be a force. Calgary will be something to be reckoned with in the West at playoff time.
No doubt, with the best coach in the league. Edmonton Oilers, they bring in Jack Campbell, Matthias Janmark, Ryan Murray, Calvin Pickard. They lose Cassian, Brassard, and Koskinen. And look, McDavid and Draisaitl are unbelievable. 260 to win the division, 15-1 to win the cup. I don't know about Yamamoto on the top line. I've not been a fan of his. Hyman, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi could be very dangerous second line. Nurse is one of my favorite defensemen in the NHL. I love him. Take it away, Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, Edmonton futures as well. Look, they got to the West Final and lost to mighty Colorado last year. So you got to believe if you think they're going to be as good or better this year, they're going to have a chance. So that's why I bet it. And when you look at it, they brought Kane back, which was key. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Yamamoto, Ryan McLeod got better late in the season. Hopefully they get something out of Puljujarvi because he was the disappointment last year. The blue line played better in the playoffs than I had any reason to expect. Nurse, Ceci, Kulak, Bouchard, Barry, that group, I couldn't believe how well they played at times. And I thought that blue line was their issue going into the playoffs last year. And they definitely improved their goaltending tandem. Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner over Mike Smith and Koskinen. It goes without saying they've improved their goaltending. So, yeah, Edmonton, I think, can get to the West Final again, maybe even push to that next step.
I think they're capable of pushing that next step as well. It's a 1:15 now, Bobano. Do you need to bounce, my man?
No, we can go 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We can go quick.
Thank you. LA Kings. Look, Kevin Fiala is a monster. He was so good down the stretch for the Minnesota Wild. He was maybe the best forward in the Western Conference at times. Now, I know it's hard to say that with Draisaitl and McDavid in that conference, but goddamn was Fiala good, and what a huge free agent signing for these Los Angeles Kings. Victor Arvidsson dealing with a back injury, probably not going to start the year, but this team could be a very tough team to reckon with. They are plus 375 to win the division, 28-1 to win the cup. Can Kopitar keep moving in the right direction, because Kempe and Fiala are monsters on his wing. Love the Danault signing. Arvidsson and Moore on either side of him. Iafallo, Byfield, and Kaliev. And then is Doughty capable of being the number one defenseman here? Because if he is, this is a dangerous hockey team. Take it away, LA Kings.
Very dangerous. They're only going to get better. A lot of their players are only going to get better. I mean, Adrian Kempe, he might be ready to play at that level every year. Philip Deneau got his offense back, and we know he's great defensively. Fiala, streaky, but going to help them offensively. Iafallo's got room for growth. Kaliev's coming into his own. Quentin Byfield hasn't even scratched the surface of what his capabilities are. And I like that young blue line. Dursey, Walker, Matt Waugh, Mikey Anderson. Doughty, if he's healthy, can still play. Edler, a good veteran when he's healthy, but when he is on the ice, he's still a good, steady force on the blue line. Quick and Peterson, Quick at his best year in a long time. Peterson's a good young goalie. I like LA quite a bit. Didn't bet the futures for the cup because I think they're not at that level yet, but they'll be in the playoffs. They might even win a round or two.
I cannot believe the Knights are 3-1 to win the division and 17-1 to win the cup. I'm just astonished. They bring in Kessel and Aiden Hill. They lose Patches, Janmark, Michael Hutchinson, Dylan Coughlin. They have a ton of injuries. Leonard done for the year. Nolan Patrick done for the year. I just find it so – why would anybody believe in this hockey team? I certainly don't. Let's just take a quick look at their lines right now. Is Eichel ready to step up? Eichel, Kessel, and Riley Smith. I mean, look, I love Chandler Stevenson. Love him. So Stevenson, Marchessault, and Stone is a good second line. Carlson, Wild Bill got to step up this year. He's coming off a bad year. Theodore was very good on defense, and Peter Angelo, Martinez still have life left in them. But I don't know how this could be 3-1. Can't believe it. Take it away, Knights.
So I like Bruce Cassidy. I like that hire, definitely. But boy, he's got a lot to deal with here because you had Mark Stone is not getting younger, and the injuries have added up for him, and he wasn't the same when he got back. Marchessault and Carlson, and their production has slowed down. I still like Riley Smith, and it's really if you're betting on Vegas over their point total or futures, you're betting on Jack Eichel. With a full training camp, more time since that neck surgery, that maybe he's finally ready to play like the superstar we think he could be. If you believe that, that could be enough to carry Vegas further than we think. But you're right. I have no interest in betting on Vegas from a future standpoint until I see what this team looks like.
In my estimation, no team, and look, you can say homer pick, but I have no problem fading my hockey team, not believing in my hockey team. But I think no team has more value in the futures market than the Vancouver Canucks. 10-1 to win the division is a must bet. 40-1 to win the cup is not a good number. You could have got 60-1 and 50-1. My sister got 50-1. Bringing in Mikheyev and Kuzmenko, people aren't talking about it enough. This forward group for the Canucks is going to be so good. Yep. Look, I don't love Besser, and I didn't love the re-signing of Besser. They went 32-15 and 10 with Boudreau. Signing JT Miller is so important for our city, man. We love him. He loves being there. I like the price point. He's a spectacular hockey player. That Pedersen, Kuzmenko, and Mikheyev line is absolutely awesome. Horvat, Garland, Podkolzin on the third line, Miller, Pearson, Besser. This forward group is fucking nasty. Absolutely nasty. Mikheyev might not be able to start the year. Besser isn't starting the year. It's possible that we could get a better number on the Canucks. It's possible if we wait a couple weeks. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to give the opportunity to get back in again in a couple weeks. I think this team's nasty. Take it away, Bobana.
Up front, they will be, especially when Mikheyev and Besser come back. Mikheyev might be ready for opening night. Besser's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. But boy, when you get those guys to go with Horvat, Pedersen, Höglander, Podkolzin, Kuzmenko, Miller, man, that's a really good. They're going to be able to score, and they should be able to. And Bruce Boudreau is a full training camp, all right? He just took over the team midseason last year. That's a benefit. I'll be honest, Jimmy, you're raving about the team. I'm raving about their forwards. I don't know about the blue line still. I'll be honest. I mean, Dermott, Pullman, Myers now at this stage. Ekman Larson didn't have the best year last year. Luke Shen. You know what I mean? I don't love that blue line still. And Quinn Hughes has to improve defensively, even though he's a great
did that last year.
player.
You have to. I mean, he was so much better last year defensively than the year before. I mean, shocking. Where I couldn't believe the jump.
Yeah, he was. He was better. I mean, the blue line still got question marks, but the good news is you got Demko, right? Demko has shown enough that we think he's an upper tier goalie. He can bail out some mistakes. But overall, I'm with you though. But Vancouver's more of a play on team for me.
And AJ says only problem is Demko. I absolutely love Demko. We have 3 teams left, and we're not going to have time. Do you want to touch on the Sharks, Ducks, or Kraken? I can do that on my own because I don't want to hurt you.
So Philly's my candidate maybe to have the worst record in the NHL from the East. San Jose would be that team from the West. No question about that. I don't know where the offense comes from outside of Hurdle and Meyer. And outside of that, it's problems. The defense is weak overall. And you got 3, I think, backup goalies trying to be number 1 goalies. Reimer, Kakkonen, and Dell. I mean, to me, that's not good for San Jose. And everyone else in this division is getting better or at least average. Seattle's going to be better as well. That's, Benier's right up front in the center ice spot. You got to have strength down the middle. They bring in Burakovsky. They bring in Bjorkstrand for some offense. That's going to help Seattle. The blue line, I think, is going to be a little bit better. And I think Grubauer will have a better year. So I like Seattle. Here's the team I really think is going to shock people in this division. Team that was an afterthought last year and missed the playoffs. I think this is one of my favorite over point totals this year, actually. The Anaheim Ducks. I shit you not. The Anaheim Ducks, folks. Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, a healthy Adam Henrique. Mason McTavish is maybe going to win the Calder, and he's the favorite, and it's not a great price, but it wouldn't shock me. He's ready for the NHL. That guy is ready. He's all over the puck. It can do everything for you. Forecheck, physical, shoot, pass, all at a high level. You bring in Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano, guys with playoff experience to this hockey team. You all of a sudden have a great top 6, and what if Max Comtois and Silverberg and Lundestrom get things going offensively for Anaheim? The blue line, Fowler can still play at a good level. You bring in John Klingberg from Dallas, Shattenkirk Kulikov, 2 veteran defensemen, Jamie Drysdale, a great young defenseman, only going to get better. You've got depth with Josh Mahura and Nathan Beaulieu now in case there's injuries on the blue line. They are going to be a much improved team. This all comes down to Gibson. If Gibson can somehow wipe the slate clean, bounce back from that horrid year last year, Anaheim is a team that's going to be poking around, maybe making the playoffs. I'm dead serious.
Well, why do you not want 40-1 to win the division in your pocket?
Yeah, over the point total, a little sprinkle on the division, because you got Calgary, you got Edmonton, you got terrific teams that you're probably not going to beat, but at that price, yes, I could sprinkle a few bucks on Anaheim. I'm
going to make the playoffs.
Do you agree with me on Anaheim? I think that team's massively undervalued.
The 2 teams that I need to have just something on in division and just something on is the Ducks and the Canucks. I feel like they're going to be so improved. And look, the Calgary and the Oilers are going to be awesome hockey teams. I'm not saying anything negative about them. Do you want to say one thing on the Seattle Kraken before we finish here? Matty Beniers, 2nd overall pick. What a stud.
Yeah, just a minute ago I did. I like Seattle to improve. I don't like them in terms of the jump that I think Anaheim is going to make, but I think Seattle will be a little bit better, and there'll be some spots to bet on them. And I don't believe I mentioned San Jose is terrible. I think we did fail to mention when we did the Central Arizona, but I don't have much to say about Arizona. They're not going to be good. They're playing in that rinky-dink home venue. They actually might get a little bit of a boost emotionally, believe it or not, from playing there, because it's going to be a smaller crowd and maybe gives them a little bit of a greater home ice. But still, Arizona's they're in a full-on rebuild, and it's not going to get a whole lot better this year.
You know what's so funny is I didn't even write them down.
I noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute, we didn't talk Arizona just when we were about to finish here.
I didn't even write down that hockey team.
Apologies for having to rush, but that's all right. We got through every team. We mentioned something on every team.
Didn't even write them on. Didn't even write them down on my sheet.
That's how insignificant the Arizona Coyotes have become. Are they even in the NHL anymore?
Yeah. I was like, there's no way. Did I just not? I just didn't. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, but Bobano, you're an absolute monster. I love you. I love our Fridays. I can't wait to have a full.
Next Friday when I'm back, we will have an NHL slate to break
Yep,
down. I'm
we
looking
sure
forward to
will. We sure will. But you got a ton to go, so just go do your thing. Know
it.
your
See you,
love.
Jimmy.
By all of
Thanks,
us.
everybody. Good luck.
There he is, Bobano, fighting the good fight, sticking around a little bit longer. That is so funny. I can't believe that's not like me. You guys know that, like, it's really important to me to prep appropriately. It means more than anything else that I do in front of you guys. So to not even write down the team, that was my subconscious not wanting them to be in the NHL. Well, this is great. Now let's talk about a couple things here, though. After having too much in the futures market is a losing proposition. I'm coming off my best futures year since 2017, but there was 5 years of losing in between. Or really 4, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21. So 4 years of bad numbers. And I'm looking at what I want to do here, and there's a lot of action that I want to have. And I've got to figure out cuts. Even if you have a local that deals with credit, you don't want to be too deep in the futures market. Remember, the books beg you to get involved in the futures market. They make a ton of fucking money in the futures market. So that's just an important caveat that needs to be mentioned here.